Hang on. You sit on the toilet, don't you? Use that as your meditation.
Not our wives. Nobody listening to this podcast has eaten a shit sandwich they didn't have a hand in making.
That's true.
Hello, Rob.
Hello, Larry.
That's our guest that just spoke over there. We're going to bring you in a minute, though. Just hang tight. Hang tight. Welcome back to Recovery Unfiltered. I'm Larry.
I'm Rob.
You can reach us at recoveryunfilteredpodcast at gmail.com.
And before the dirty jokes get started, we are not affiliated with Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Celebrate Recovery, anything with letters. This is just our story and our experience, strength, and hope.
That's right. We're just here to help that one person. Hopefully, anything that we say, don't hold it against us in a court of law.
And if we help two of you, that's just overachieving. We'll brag about it.
We're overachievers. We are over. So we have a very special guest, and I say that every fucking week.
Yeah, I'm not that special.
You are special, Mike. You are special. Damn it. We're starting that all over. So we're bringing in a special guest this week.
Would you like to...
yeah, bring it in before I ruin it again.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Michael Moncure. I'm an alcoholic. I've lived in Modesto for too long, 10 years. But I'll get into that when I tell you.
Yeah, so Michael is... and I'm glad you said your whole last name. We've never had a guest do that.
Me.
Yeah, Rob and me. I mean, anyways, here's the reason why I'm excited for Michael to be in here today is because I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike's the first one we've had in here that you haven't sponsored.
Correct.
And that's why I'm a little excited because you don't know their story.
A little bit.
You do. I mean, we all heard it, right?
This is my shipmate, man. We are sailors.
Yeah. You be careful how deep in that ship you guys went. But anyways, we don't.
No, you're right, though. I did not sponsor Michael.
We didn't. You didn't sponsor him. And so it's exciting to have somebody in here because I love when Rob gets new good information because now we're going to get a chance for Rob to dig into some questions and kind of the stuff that I normally do because I don't know their sports story. So normally that's why I ask. So how's it going to go, Mike? I mean, I didn't get to say this a lot off air, but we're going to let you take this. You're going to tell your story. Rob and I will interrupt from time to time.
Good.
Yeah, we will talk. We will bring out a little bit more. If you say something I want more detail on, or Rob does, we'll cut in and we're just going to dig down. When we say this is Recovery Unfiltered, it's unfiltered, right? What you say here doesn't stay here.
That's why you have an editor.
That is why I have an editor. That would be me. So anyways, Mike, take it away, brother.
Do you have any good jokes, Mike?
Yeah.
This one, I just really love this one. It's guy goes to the Super Bowl. He's saved up, got tickets, and there's an empty seat next to him. So he asks the guy on the other side, he goes, do you know who this seat is? And the guy goes, yeah, it's my wife's. Well, she passed away. He goes, oh, you couldn't find anybody else to go? He goes, no, they're all at the funeral.
Super Bowl.
It's a clean joke.
That is clean.
I've got some dirty ones I might cut in a little bit later.
We're good.
I know a few of them. There's a dog joke.
Yeah. Mike, I don't know if you remember this, but when I walked into Primary Purpose, you were one of the first ones to shake my hand. In fact, I think you were the first one to shake my hand. You were standing outside smoking a cigarette, drinking a cup of coffee as I shakingly walked up, and you said, hi, my name's Michael. Welcome. And I remember that very well. And I remember seeing Dawson was second. And then I said, I'm here to see Jay. And they said, well, he's on inside here. Cause that's who, when I left Maynard's, that's where I was sent to have him as my sponsor. Well, he's tried. I love Jay, but he wasn't going fast enough for me. Anyways, Mike, take it away.
Oh gosh. Let's see. I'm going to start at the very beginning.
Please do.
I'm the fourth of six kids. Mm-hmm. My dad was a career sailor. It's not why I'm an alcoholic. I was raised in a good home. My dad drank, I've told this before. My dad would buy a quart of beer. And there were these old rubber stoppers that would fold down and seal it. And he'd come home and he'd pour himself about a third of the bottle, seal it off, put it in the refrigerator, and have the next day. And by the third day, it was flat. But, that was his every night. That was like, he'd come home from work, he'd have a little short beer, and that was it. I can't ever remember seeing him drunk. So I'm tipsy once. He and my uncle George were trying to open a bottle of Mateus, and my dad wasn't a wine drinker. My dad's was a Southern boy. And so drinking wine was, not something that he did. He liked beer, and like me, he liked scotch, So.
I guess got to interrupt real fast. As alcoholics, when you say he would take that little bit of beer, it's like, what the fuck was the point?
He liked the taste of it.
Is that what it was?
He really enjoyed that beer at the end of work.
Wow.
Okay. And what did he do in the Navy?
He was machinist mate.
Okay.
26 years. Nice. Tin cans, destroyers. Wow. For those of you who don't know what a tin can is, there's a great book. It's called Last Stand of the Tin Can Sailors. I don't know the author, but look it up. It's a story of Taffy 3. My dad was there.
Where was he stationed at?
All over.
Okay.
I mean, he was
26 years. You were
right. That is true.
During World War II, he was primarily early in World War II. I guess he went between the East Coast and England as part of the convoys, and then he got a new ship, and he went to the East or went to the Pacific. Hell, they didn't even stop on the West Coast. They went through the Panama Canal and right into the fray.
Wow.
That's just a floating gun.
Right? Yeah. And, he lost 2 ships during World War II.
Wow.
So, and he was wounded. And it's just, he was my dad.
When men were men.
Mm.
And the sheep were skittish.
And the sheep were nervous.
I'm sorry. So I traveled a lot as a kid. I was born in Portsmouth, and we moved to Bethesda, or actually Maryland. My dad was he was teaching at Annapolis.
Okay.
He taught engineering, machine engineering theory at Annapolis for 2 years. And then he got a ship out of, he used that to transfer to the West Coast, and he had a ship out of Long Beach. And I can't remember the name of that first ship. I was young at that time. And then we went to Texas and then back to California. So for a long time, early on in my life, I was always the new kid, so I'm fighting and stuff. But that's not why I'm an alcoholic either. I'm an alcoholic because I am bodily and mentally different.
From your fellows?
From everybody in my family. I mean, they're all drinkers, but none of them went to the depths that I did. When I start drinking, I can't stop. Somebody explained this to me, and I don't know how accurate it is, but our book says that drinking sets off a physical craving. And this psychiatrist that I was seeing at the VA, she explained to me that I drink one drink, I get one craving. And so now I have to drink a second drink. I drink the second drink. I'm still chasing the first drink, but now I'm chasing the second drink. And then I have a third drink, and now I'm chasing the first, second, and third drink, which is why we can never get enough.
Wow. That makes total sense.
And that made sense to me. Right. Whether it's accurate or not, I don't know, but it made sense.
Yeah.
And so, I got married in the Navy. I joined the Navy when I was 19. I graduated from high school, went to college for a couple of years, quit college because I got just tired of going to school, and so I went into the Navy. And
were you drinking at this time?
Not a lot. No. I didn't. My drinking really didn't get out of control.
I didn't mean to jump ahead.
No, that's fine.
Curious.
No, I just until I was in my mid-30s.
Okay.
Well, that's not true. When I was in the Navy, I was stationed at Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, and I was sitting at the bar with the chief and this E3. She was a cute little E3.
Yeah, baby.
And, but no, I was professional. I was. But she, it was kind of like you guys sitting on either side of me. And they, at the same time, it was like they had rehearsed it. Mon Cure, you got a fucking drinking problem. And I made some flippant remark about the bar closing at 10 o'clock. That was my drinking problem. And, but I got angry. And I said, I don't have a drinking problem, And so I went a year without a drink. It was miserable. Thank you. But did you get it?
No, it's over there. Damn fly.
Anyway, so I went a year without a drink.
Just to prove them wrong?
Just to prove them wrong. I stayed sober on a resentment. I know that now.
Right.
I didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
But I stayed sober on a resentment for a year. And, I got out of the Navy after almost 8 years. And I went back to school. And I was married. We had 2 kids. And then a third one came real soon after that. And I was miserable. I when I look at it at the time, I was miserable because of her. I was miserable because of them. I know today that I was miserable because I was cutting myself off from the sunlight of God.
Mm-hmm.
And God was making my life a living hell. Before I lost control of my drinking. Drugs are part of my story. And, in 85, my doctor told me to stop using cocaine. And,
motherfucker.
Well, but here's the thing. This is part
Fucking
of it.
doctors.
I was using a lot of cocaine, and I stopped. I slept for 4 or 5 days, and and I never obsessed about it. I never thought about it after that. She said it was going to kill me. I stopped.
Ain't that crazy?
But
me too.
Same thing with me and meth.
When I had to stop,
when I failed a drug test at work, and then they said, "There's got to stop." Okay.
No, when I had to stop cocaine, when I first had to take a drug test, when I first started driving commercially, never touched it ever again. I just like that.
But alcohol?
Oh boy.
My
ass. We jumped forward 10 years, and now it's 95. I've already drank my family gone. My kids liked me. But they didn't want to hang out with me because I was a drunk. And Lisa, my doctor, gastroenterologist, Lisa Hertz, she said, "Michael, how much do you drink?" She didn't ask me how much cocaine I'd used. She didn't say, "How much do you use?" She says, "You've got to." So she looked at my stomach and saw the effects of cocaine. She asked me, "How much do you drink?" And I lied.
Like we do.
I said, I have a scotch after work or a glass of wine with dinner. She says, it doesn't matter. You've got to stop. Your stomach looks almost as bad as it did when you had cancer. I had stomach cancer in 1990. Okay.
And he was. They said you weren't going to live.
They gave me a year. Yeah. If the surgery didn't work, I had a year to live. Wow. But the point is that I tried, like our book says, every imaginable remedy to stop drinking. And I could go a weekend, especially if I was going to hang out with Kathy, or I could go, like I didn't drink at work, but, I'd sit and look at the clock. And I don't know if anybody can relate to this, but, I get to work at 8 o'clock and there's this clock on the wall right above my desk. And it's, I can have a drink at noon. And then I would obsess about that drink instead of doing my work. I mean, I did my work, but the drink was more important than the work I was doing. And, then I'd come back from lunch and I was good. I would have one, sometimes two. If I went with the boss, I always had two because he had two. So it was okay. But then I'd look at the clock and it's like, okay, I got 4 more hours, then I can have a drink. I can drink at 5. And that was the way I lived. My children weren't important. I'll tell the story about my son. My son was celebrating his 9th birthday. And we were downtown Long Beach. We had taken the train to get there because I knew I was going to have a few, and I didn't want to get a DUI with a kid. I've never had a DUI. And we're having a great day. We went had lunch. We were shooting pool at a place called the Blue Cafe. We're listening to blues music, and I'm drinking. And Joe's having a good time, and we're laughing. At some point, I went black. Mm-hmm. And we're on the train platform. And some policemen came, and then all of a sudden, I'm not black anymore. And they said, "You can't take him in the condition you're in." I didn't hear that. The second sentence was, do you have someone you can call? I thought, well, if I can't take him, then I'm going to leave because you're going to arrest me. And so I left. So I left this 9-year-old boy on the platform with 2 police officers. And I justified it because he was with cops. You know, what a fuck. I'm sorry, but
I've heard you tell that story a couple times, Michael, and I can't, my gut and heart hurts for you every time I hear that.
You know, that was just booze.
Right.
You know, the thing though is that,
how old was Joe?
He was 9.
He was 9.
Okay. I missed that part.
And you know, and I drank for 3 more years. You know, Kathy and I were still close. Mm-hmm. That would have been, he was 9, so that would have been 96. And Kathy broke up with me in 97 because my drinking just took on even larger proportions. And I'm using Kathy's name because this is a really important part of recovery for me.
Can I clarify something just for a minute, Michael?
Sure.
Kathy is not Joe's mom.
No.
So I think we skipped over that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'd gotten divorced.
Right.
You know, we had 5 kids, and I won't say anything bad about my ex-wife. She was living with a drunk, and she handled that in the best way she knew.
Amen. Amen.
Even though I maybe wasn't drinking all the time, you know, but I was a dick. I mean, I would go to this, I mean, I'm serious.
No, but isn't it easy for us to say that now? You wouldn't have said that when you were drinking.
Oh, no, it was all her.
Right.
But, you know, there was a little bar that I'd go to in Signal Hill. It's called Uncle Bill's. And they had this big redhead cocktail. Well, she bartender, and she'd wait tables. And every time I'm getting ready to leave, she would spray on some fresh cologne and give me the biggest hug. Sometimes she'd peck me on the cheek, so I'd get a little lipstick, and I'd go home like that. Well, what is my wife going to think? Who you been with? You know, I wasn't with anybody, but I gave the appearance. Right. You know, and as I went through the steps, I realized, where did I cause jealousy in the sex part of the inventory? You know, so 97, Kathy and I was working for Spelling Entertainment, making more money than I should have ever been allowed to make. Loved my job, loved the people I worked with. We had a Christmas party, and I scared Kathy. I don't know what I did, but whatever it was, it frightened her. And, you know, 2 years later, now I'm drinking. That job ends because they decide they're not going to have the AS400 anymore. They're going to go to a networking setup. So I get another job with a family job. And, you know, I'm working for a company called Win Systems. I think they still exist. But Terry Wynn was my sister-in-law's brother. I was a good programmer. So I went to work for them, still making more money than I should have been. Not because I wasn't qualified. It's just that I never knew what to do with all the money. So I'd spend it on booze and give good gifts to my children, but and paid my child support. It came out of my check. You know, when I first had to pay child support, the guy I was working for, that was in Bakersfield, he said, take it out of your check. Have it sent directly to her, because if it ever comes back, you can prove it. And, you know, that was good advice, and I followed it, which is
rare for us.
Yeah. Anyway, Easter of 99, which Easter Sunday was April 4th that year. Our work cut out at noon on Thursday. You know, a good Catholic company, you know, it was good. So we cut out Maudley Thursday at noon, and I drank until I came to Monday morning. I can't really tell you anything about the weekend, except that I know I didn't go to church. There was a dozen phone messages that I didn't answer the phone because I unplugged the phone at some point. I had put my kids had keys to my place, but I had a bar that I could slide over. So even if they came over, they couldn't get in. I was lying on the floor in my living room, and I looked at the counter, and there were 7 or 8 empty bottles of scotch. There was a half a bottle left. I poured it out. But no, what I did was I woke up and I looked at that. And in my heart, it was like, I just can't live like this. And I asked God to help me. It was probably the most honest prayer I'd ever made up to that point. I said, God, please help me. And, I went to work sweating and all of that crap that happens when you have, beginning of the DTs. And then, I got off work that night and I was sweating and shaking and, I was probably going to die. So I stopped at the liquor store and instead of buying a bottle of scotch, I bought a bottle of wine. I drank 2 glasses, and was just overcome with, you guys have heard this, I just overcome with exhaustion. So I went to work, I went to bed, slept, got up the next morning, made a big show to myself, pouring the bottle out, throwing it in the trash. I'm not going to ever drink again.
Had you ever done that before?
No.
Yeah.
No, God, there's wine, man. Come on. And so I went to work. About 3 o'clock, the sweat starts, the shaking starts. Stomach is getting into a knot. And I go home. On the way home, I stop at the liquor store again. I grab another bottle of wine, red wine. And I have 1 glass. And overcome with exhaustion, I went to bed. The next morning, instead of making the show of pouring it out, I pushed the cork in it, put it under the sink, and went to work. This is Wednesday, April 7th of 1999. I didn't go home. I went to an AA meeting. I'm going to cry.
You're good.
I walked in there, and it was, this is God working in my life when I didn't even want him there. Newcomers meeting. Newcomers didn't get to share.
No.
Let me see your book. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I cried that I'm Michael and I'm an alcoholic. And anyway, at the end of the meeting, they asked if there were any newcomers. When was your last drink? And I told them it was around 6 o'clock the night before, so I had less than 24 hours.
Wow.
So I won the big book. That was the gift. And they made me read this. And I don't know if I still have trouble getting through it. You think 25 years I should be able to read this. But it says, if you think you are an atheist, an agnostic, a skeptic, or have any other form of intellectual pride which keeps you from accepting what is in this book, I feel sorry for you.
Right.
If you still think you are strong enough to beat the game alone, that is your affair. But if you really and truly want to quit drinking liquor for good and all, and sincerely feel you must have some help, we know we have an answer that never fails. That's the part that gets me every time. Sorry. If you go about it with 1/2 the zeal when you've been in the habit of showing when you were getting another drink. It still breaks me up.
Dr. Bob's Nightmare.
Dr. Bob.
Yeah. What page is that?
That's Dr. Bob's Nightmare. The Dr. Bob's right after it starts. I believe it starts on page
It's
172.
it's the last paragraph of Dr. Bob's Nightmare.
Gotcha. It's not in the first 164.
No, it starts on page 172. I believe. Dr. Bob's
It should
Nightmare.
be.
No, I know, and that's my point. That was my point. Dr.
Yeah.
Bob's Nightmare, to me, is very valuable part of it.
My understanding, and I don't know the history as well as a lot of people, but my understanding is that if Bill had met another stockbroker, we might be paying to have a group.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. For sure.
Me and Larry talked about that in the episode we just did. How Bill or Dr. Bob was a great balance.
Yes, they yeah.
Kind of like me and this ding dong.
I don't know how balanced. You have to work really hard.
It's tough.
Rob, there is.
I weigh the scale pretty good over here.
Yeah. Anyway, some men there grabbed me and pulled me aside, and they got me into the book right away. And all of these men are still a big part of my life, even though a lot of them have passed on. I was 46 when I got sober, and that's, I don't know if that's old or young, or it's when I got sober. It's when God saw it fit to say, hey, buddy, you've done enough of this.
But you also took the action, finally.
You went
into a meeting.
I had been going to meetings because I was told to. And and I didn't hear anything. I never heard.
Hold on just a second. You said you were going to meetings because you had to.
Yeah, I was told to go to meetings if I wanted to keep my job.
Okay, we skipped over when did that
happen? You want to hear the story of me peeing in the pool.
Thank you, Michael.
I was trying to... Okay.
You know damn good and well I was pushing for that one.
Company party. Anyway, let me finish. These men, and I, there was Dean and Leon and Jim and, Frank, Alan, Don, and I'm forgetting a whole bunch of other ones. I'm not going to use their last names, even though most of them have passed. Alan took me through the steps real quick. We did it in a week.
Perfect.
He met me on Monday. Anyway, I'll tell the story and then I'll get back. I was at a company party at the vice president's house, and there's 4 bathrooms in this house. There's
5.
Well, there's the pool. And I just stood on the diving board and peed in the pool.
In front of God and everybody.
Yeah.
I love
it. And
sorry.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's what it was. But I remember my first meeting, and I've forgotten a guy named Al Black, but I'm at the very first AA meeting I went to. It was at a place called MWA. Place is still there. It's in Long Beach, right across the street from the Target off of Atlantic. If you want to go there, they've got great men's meetings. They've got great meetings there. That was a little plug for MWA. But I get there, and I just had a piece of paper and I just had them sign it. But I sat through the meeting, and all I heard was chaos. And there was a girl there that was 7 or 8 months pregnant, and she was going back to prison because she had violated parole with crack cocaine. And I said, that's a fucking good place for her to be. Because I didn't understand the addiction part of what her life was. Yeah. But I did see that she was pregnant and she smoked, so I'd made judgment. But at the end of the meeting, they asked, as he always shared at the end, and Al says, hi, I'm Al. He called himself Big Al. Big Al was, I don't know, you guys know, anyway, he was about the size of Ted. Okay. And he says, welcome to the roller coaster ride. Mm-hmm. It's better than the merry-go-round you've been on.
Oh, man.
And that resonated. Didn't stop me from drinking, but it resonated. And so I did that for a while. And then that's why I knew about AA when I got to where I was broken, and God let me get broken. My children didn't want anything to do with me. My siblings, I'd find out about parties after the fact. Kathy had walked out on me, or not walked out on me. We actually stayed in touch. This is a great part of recovery.
I was going to ask you to go back to that because I've heard you tell that story. I love that story.
We stayed in touch with emails. Christmas, she sent me Christmas cards with a picture of her and her children, and I'm watching her kids grow up, and I'm, feeling angry more than anything else. Sorry. So it was her, I'm not going to say what birthday it was, but it was a significant birthday for her. And I had gone through all the pictures that I had taken during the time, the 6 years that we had been together before. And I just took all the pictures that had me in them, I took out. Because I didn't want to send those to her. I just wanted to send pictures that I had taken of her. There was probably 120 or so. So I packaged them up, and I got a birthday card, and I mailed them in separate because I wanted to make sure the birthday card got there if the pictures got there later, okay. And they both came back as undeliverable. I sent her an email to the last email address I knew, and I didn't hear back from her. So, I'm sober. I've been sober for, a good amount of time now. And I just kind of figured that was, she's happy. She doesn't want anything to do with me because it would bring up memories that she didn't want to. And I'm mature enough now, believe it or not, to have been gracious that God had given me the time that we had together. 3 years later,
wow.
I get a friend request from her to be a friend on Facebook. And, so I look at her. I had been looking at her Facebook page, and you couldn't get past if you weren't a friend.
Right.
And, she, looking at the picture, she's standing behind a rock with the T-shirt on, and she's got that look that I just, it melts my heart today to see it. Hey, I love her so much. Anyway, she sent me a friend request, and I had to call my sponsor. My first reaction was...
How long were you sober at this time when she sent you this request?
10 years ago, so it's 15.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd done the work, and I had a really good sponsor. He's passed on now. I don't have a sponsor today. We'll talk about that. But I talked with him. He said, "Well, you do owe her an amends." So, So I
fucking sponsors.
Yeah, you dicks. Anyway, so I accepted her friend request, and we started sending messengers. The Facebook Messenger.
I've never been on Facebook, so I don't
anyway,
know.
we started sending messages back and forth to one another, and she was doing some work. She was working for a food producer in Modesto here, and there was a show in Costa Mesa, and I was in Long Beach. So we met for lunch. My amends. I don't know. I now know that she's not married, and so we made a plan to meet at this little cafe in Long Beach, and we met at noon on a Saturday, and we closed that place. We had a 1 hour. We had set aside 1 hour to have lunch. I make my amends, and we were happy. Live happily ever after, kind of. And no, that's exactly what God's given me.
Uh-huh.
And she says, "Let's meet again." And so we met again, and we communicated more. We talked more. I came up here the day after New Year, so January 2nd of 15, and I haven't left really. I went back to get my stuff. And we've been married 8 years.
That's awesome.
And, and I just, it was like, and I'm going to go, it's because I worked the steps as they're outlined in the book. I had an amends, the made direct amends wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Right. Also, if you can't make the amends, if, like I sent her a birthday note, you can delay it as long as you're willing to make the amends. So I said, we have a great life, I probably work harder, retired than I ever did is sitting at a computer, it's easy. But it's that gift of sobriety.
Uh-huh.
And, when I sat down and made amends to all of my children, I did individually and collectively. We got through, and my kids, we send recipes to one another. We send pictures. I'm part of their life.
Music. Your daughter sent you music the other day. She said, "Thank you, thank you, Dad, for the blues."
Oh yeah.
Who was it? Who did she send you?
It was John Lee Hooker.
John Lee Hooker.
Boom boom. Anyway,
but I'd love to hear you speak about the blessings of when you do, because you love. We all do, but you, not that but you say it all the time. You love
reading,
sobriety, and you
reading
love
with his grandson.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I have an 11-year-old that we read. Sometimes we read the Bible. Sometimes we read something else, but it doesn't matter. The important thing is we get
over the phone, though, right, Michael?
FaceTime.
Oh, FaceTime. That's right.
So we get to see each other and we talk. I have. I don't know. I have to count, so that wouldn't be fair. But I've got like 14 with Kathy's grandkids and ours.
Wow.
And then I've got 3 great grandchildren, and I'd have missed all of this. Yeah, that's one drink.
Yeah, that's what Michael always tells me. I was one drink away.
That's the reason why I say it.
And
I get it from Michael.
And the other thing is, that drink is still waiting for me.
Preach it, brother. Preach it.
That's the drink that is going to kill me. Mm-hmm. God said, that's it. You're done. You've had your 50 barrels. You're finished. I don't know how many barrels I'm allowed, but
but we met our quota.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and we surpassed it.
Yes,
and that's and I'm an alcoholic because I am bodily, mentally different. I obsess about alcohol, and when I start drinking it, I can't stop. But more importantly, I was cut off from God by my actions, by my, my lifestyle. Throwing tons of powder up your nose is not what God intended that coca plant for. Right. Having I moved here. I've lost 2 sponsors to death, and I don't have one today. But what I do have is I have a list of men that I can call closed-mouth friends. That's what the book says.
Right.
I have people that I trust with my deepest, darkest secrets, and I know that they're not going to repeat them to somebody else. It's not going to come back around and, like the old telephone game. Mm-hmm. I tell a guy that, I stubbed my toe yesterday, and the guy, he comes back to me, I've had my foot amputated.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the truth of it.
Right.
We, and, the guy that took me through the steps the first time, we did it in a week. He had me, said, "Do you have a book?" I go, "Yes." He goes, "Go home, read it. Starting at the foreword," he said, starting at the title page, which is the page with the first promise, all the way through to the end of Dr. Bob's Nightmare. And we'll meet Friday.
He did tell you, your first sponsor told you to read to the end of Dr. Bob's Nightmare.
Yes.
I need a new fucking sponsor, Michael. Mine didn't tell me to do that.
Well, it's not the first 164. This guy, Alan, was a big fan of Dr. Bob. I'm a big fan of Dr. Bob.
I love Dr. Bob.
Then why the fuck didn't you tell me to read it?
Because the steps don't say to do that. It's not part of the step work. It doesn't say to do that.
Well, the steps don't say to read the book either.
No, it doesn't say that. That's why we didn't do that.
Except
you're taking all my fun away, Michael. Will you pile on to him too?
At the end of
he sees the steps the same way I do.
See, at the end of step 5, that's the only place it tells me to read the book.
Right.
Oh, and at the beginning
but it just says go to the first 5 proposals.
Right, and at the just before we're step 3, it used to say go back and read the book.
Yeah, but
now it says this thought brings us
to step 3.
Right. But I do love being sober. I don't have to remember what I told you or you. No. And I can tell you one thing, and you could tell him that, and he'll say, "Oh yeah, Michael told me that." Because
it's the same.
I'm not saying I don't lie, because that would be a lie.
Right.
I
like that.
But I try not to lie. I try to catch myself before I open my mouth. It's like engage brain before speaking. I'm not good at that sometimes.
Right.
I've got my son is kind of one of us. I think he doesn't think so yet. So he's making good money. He's a chemical engineer. He doesn't see it as a problem.
I just got that. His chemical engineering. He doesn't have a degree.
He has a master's degree.
Yeah, he does.
No, he has a bachelor's degree. He's working on his master's degree as a chemical engineer. He works for a company.
I took that I took that as a whole.
You thought he was cooker, huh?
Yes. I took
I'd have called him a cooker
as Walter White right there.
We know what that is.
Wow, you're off. Way off.
I went way off on that.
one.
My daughter, my youngest daughter, she has 4 children, and I get along with all of them. They either call me Papa or Pops. I went to a wedding. One of my granddaughters got married, and has given me a great grandson. My daughter Sarah has 2 grandchildren, and so that's 2 more great grandchildren, Phoenix and Echo, and Henry. I almost said Charlie, but Charlie's his dad. These are just blessings. But it's not just staying sober. It's following the tenets of Christianity. There was a thing I don't do a lot of heavy stuff on Facebook. I almost, I send jokes. You've seen that. I don't do, when I had my anniversary, when I turned 25, I put XXV, and that was it. Those who know. Right. Those who don't know go, what the hell is he crazy? But I send a lot of humor or faith-based things. But one of the guys today said, what is man's purpose? It was just a question on one of the faith-based ones that I kind of follow. And did
you hit him at the top of page 77?
Nope.
What'd you do?
Even more importantly, I went to the Shorter Catechism, question 1. And it says, what is man's purpose? What is man's main purpose? It's to glorify God in all that we do and to live perfectly with him forever, or words to that effect. Which, if I glorify God in everything that I do, then I'm not going to harm you. I'm going to be of maximum service. Maximum service. So, AA kind of watered it a little bit, because we're afraid we being me, sometimes I get afraid to speak
your faith,
my faith, especially in an AA meeting, because I don't want to turn off a guy that might be the thing, and you hear guys talk about, I read the steps and there's God all through them. Well, there's a couple of places, and, I read the, more about alcoholism, and there's God all through it, and it turns them off. So I do say my faith, but I don't say that's the center of sobriety. It's my center,
right?
But it may not be a Buddhist center. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to tell him that his faith is wrong. Let's get him sober. Let's get to be friends, and then we can compare faiths. Then I can.
But is it really? But is it even that important, Michael?
It is.
Why? They're sober.
Because I'm told to.
They're sober.
But the other big book tells me.
Okay,
the Great Commission.
I was playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, but the Great Commission tells me to share the good news, to share the gospel.
Right.
And I do a crappy job of it. But I try to share it. I talk. The kids that I sponsor, they know. I've got a guy that I'm waiting for him to get well long enough. He's had just a string of bad luck. Flat tire on his bike, COVID, and then Kathy and I making plans and doing stuff. So, this Wednesday, we're going to do his 5th step while Kathy's at I already know it. When you take a guy through the steps and he's got questions on the 4th step, or, you kind of have a general idea of what he's going to say to you. And all of everyone's character defects are the same.
Yeah.
Rejection, abandonment. I hear, and God, the men God brings to me. There's a reason, and usually because there's, or not always, but maybe they were molested like I was, and that's a sticking point for them, or the way they drank, or the way they also used methamphetamines like I did. That white marching powder, I love it, right? That kind of stuff. There's a lot of there's similarities no matter what.
Right.
But then there's general, there's ones that are specific that God brings. So,
right. But as far as, the book is real clear. Selfishness, self-centeredness
is the root of our trouble, page 63.
Right.
62, sorry.
And if I can eliminate those two things, also on that, I think it's on the same page where it says we're spiritually sick. When we clean up spiritually,
then we straighten out mentally and physically.
Right.
He turns it around on
right?
us.
Yeah. And you hear about, you've heard, this is, we're talking. One of the things that makes me angry in an AA meeting is I've got a twofold disease. That's not what the book says. The book tells me I have a threefold disease: spiritual, mental, and physical. When I clean up spiritually, the mental and the physical go away. And you see guys that get that spiritual awakening, how, they get a little healthier, they're happier,
I can do this on my own.
Yeah. But
that's why you got hit fast, Michael.
Huh?
That's why you got hit fast, baby.
Well, I think that.
That's what the book says.
Well, I know, and Dr. Bob would take him through them in a day.
Yeah.
But there were only 6 steps, So give us 2 days, right?
Well, we can go to page 262 where Dr. Bob does that, and I'll show you the other 4 steps.
I know. If you want. I know. Yeah, I know that. I mean, I'm not a big book thumper. I mean, I know what. I can't tell you what.
I don't even know what does that even mean?
You're a big book thumper.
Yes, you are.
You fucker. Don't.
Okay, tell me what's on page.
I don't know.
You don't. Yeah, now
you've heard the joke about the girl that.
Don't really have it. Even if I've heard it, they may not have.
She's.
I love your joke.
Hold on a second. Okay,
this is a great joke.
No,
it's a big book joke.
I'm sure it is, but I ain't letting that fucker off the hook over there.
What?
You don't.
What?
What's a big book thumper? I ain't a big book thumper.
I didn't say I wasn't. I said what is
you?
No.
What is that?
It's fucking great. There's nothing wrong with it.
I think a big book thumper is someone who studies the big book to the point where they can tell me page, paragraph, line.
A lot of times, yes.
Right.
And I think that's great. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just not that guy. I can kind of find the general area that's in the big book, and then I can find it.
This is what I go back to, Michael, when I say is why I love Rob on this podcast, because he can dig shit out of that thing. And the podcast, so the episode that dropped last week, I let Rob off his chain and let him go
just a little bit.
He did. I let him off a little bit, and because I let him dig into that book and talk about the 12 steps and how Dr. Bob and Bill, and I let him go.
But just the language, Michael, returning home. Right. Next.
So I know. So we come off of that episode.
And why you should do it that way.
Because you keep it fresh in their hearts.
Thank you. Because it's brand new.
Yeah. Coming off that episode, then you sit there and say, what's a Bible? What's a big book? Go back and listen to episode 16 or 15.
I know what it is. Yeah. But I want to hear Michael's definition. So now I want to hear the joke.
Okay. This is one of the first jokes. One of the first AA jokes. It may be the first AA joke I heard. There's some in our fellowship that say, stay out of relationships for the first year, because you just, I'm really grateful that my sponsors didn't tell me to do that, because we've been isolating for so long that we don't know how to do relationships. So where's the safest place to learn how to be a man with a man, how to be a man, how to be a gentleman with a woman, not look at her like she's, a potential roll in the hay. Anyway, this girl's been sober a year, and some guys asked her out. So she runs to her sponsor, and her sponsor says, well, what I need you to do is go home and read pages 68 and 69. So she, she has to take the bus. And so she gets on the bus, and it's the 9 bus, and then she has to transfer to the 6 bus, and she's getting all confused. And so she gets home, and she opens up to the book to page 96. Rob, you want to read it?
I knew where he was going.
I did.
Want me to read it?
Yeah.
Do not be discouraged if your prospect does not respond at once. Search out another alcoholic and try again. You are sure to find someone desperate enough to accept with eagerness what you offer. We find it a waste of time to keep chasing a man who cannot or will not work with you. If you leave such a person alone, he may soon become convinced that he cannot recover by himself. to spend too much time on any one situation. It's to deny some other alcoholic an opportunity to live and be happy.
Yeah, it's the great punchline.
Yeah. So from 69, you go to 96.
Right.
And, I had to go home and read it the first time I heard it, because everybody's laughing and I laughed along because I didn't know the book that well. This life is, we're sitting here laughing, we're making jokes, and, all of us are just, one drink away from death.
Yeah.
All of us.
From giving this up.
Right.
Yeah. The book tells me that to drink is to die.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've witnessed in the time that I've been sober is you see somebody who drinks, and if they don't get right back to the group and stay, their spirituality starts to die quickly.
Mm-hmm. Quickly. And
then their mental faculties, because all of a sudden they've got that mental obsession again. Mm-hmm. And then once they start drinking, the craving comes in. I've twice in my sobriety, I've wanted to drink. I really, really wanted
Twice in 25 years.
Yeah.
Tell me
really, really wanted to drink. First time.
I remember this. Yeah.
The first time was, I was coming up on 6 years of sobriety. And I had been over at my mom's house. I had Fridays off, and so I was at Mom's house. And we had been playing cribbage, and she's kicking my butt. I have to say this because I love my mom. But by that time, her hands had become kind of crippled. Mm. So we had this cribbage board that was like 4 feet long with these big pegs so she could move the pegs. But she couldn't shuffle or deal. So I'm shuffling and dealing, and she's beating my ass.
Cheater for your mom.
No, and so I'm ready. And then I trimmed her nails. And then I'm getting ready to leave. And the doorbell rings. And the way the doorbell rang was the way the guy next door, Philip, would ring the doorbell. So I'm thinking it's Philip, and I've got my jacket on, I've got my helmet in my hand, I swing the door open, and it's these two Army guys, a sergeant and a captain that had a cross on his collar. Mm. I knew immediately that there was my nephew was in Iraq, and I don't remember the town. Doesn't matter, but I knew immediately that he had been killed because they don't send those guys out if he's been injured, wounded, or anything. So I knew immediately that Stephen was dead, and so we let him in the house. Hey, can you call your sister to come home? What the fuck? Pardon my language, folks, but I'm not going to call my sister and tell her there's two Army guys here and she has to drive from Irvine to Long Beach. No way I'm going to put her through that because she's going to know as well. We're a military family. I served in the Navy. My sister served in the Navy. My older brother served in the Army. We know what these guys are there for. Right. And so... Susan, I went down and I had to tell her why we had to take her home. That's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I didn't like the way I felt. I knew that a big mouth of whiskey would ease that a little bit. But you guys taught me to call somebody. Mm-hmm. And so I got home, I called somebody. And I called Don. Don told me to meet him at the club, which is MWA, another plug. And I went to the meeting and I told on myself immediately. The obsession to drink left.
Took that power away.
And I went home. There's a bunch of people there now. The pastor of our church was there. He prayed. And I went out in the back, and all the young guys are out there, and they've got a bottle of Crown Royal. And, we're out there smoking cigarettes and, passing it around, talking what a good guy Steve was. And, just all the stuff that guys do as a way to hide the pain.
Right.
And the bottle came to me, and I handed it on. And it came back to me, and I don't know who it was. Somebody said, aren't you going to drink to his memory? And I I poured out some, and I said, I don't drink. And, a lot of things came crashing into my brain. One of the things was that Stephen said, Uncle Mike, I love you being sober. So I'm going to drink to fuck that up.
Right.
The other times I quit AA.
This is the one where the bottle of scotch was on the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was living in Denver. I was working at a company called DPI, Wholesale Foods Distributor, Specialty Foods. And I was going to this piano bar fairly regularly with...
How sober were you at, sobriety-wise?
I was 10 years maybe.
But not really AA in it?
Well, I quit for a year.
Yeah.
Okay. The way I go to meetings now was the way I went to meetings up until I quit AA.
Okay.
At least 3, 4, 5 a week, sometimes more. Just depends, but never less than 4. Unless, like I've got my foot in a cast. I just had surgery. I'm going to have surgery on Tuesday. They're going to fix a cataract. I might miss Tuesday. But I hadn't been going to meetings, and I hadn't been hanging out with like-minded people. Mm-hmm. And so we go to this piano bar, and the music's good, and I'm drinking ginger ale, and this bartender kind of made a cocktail because they didn't have actual ginger ale, so he knew how to throw certain...
He's good.
Yeah, it tasted like ginger ale. But I walk by the bar, go to the head. That's bathroom for all you guys that don't know. And I'm walking back, and there's this bottle that's, in my mind's eye, it was 9 feet in the air, light shining on it. It's sparkling back at me, and it goes, "Hey, Michael." And so I went by the first time. Later on in the night, I got to go to the bathroom again because I'm drinking a lot of soda, and I come back, and this time I look at it, and it's still 9 feet in the air, shiny. And I asked the bartender, and it was a bottle of Macallan, the Macallan. Mm-hmm. And it was $225, $250 a shot, something like that. I can afford that.
Could you, though?
Well.
Monetarily, you could.
Yeah. And so, but I went to my date, and I said, I'd like to have a scotch. And she said, Michael, who's going to drive us home? She knew that once I started drinking, and she was already drunk, not drunk, but not like I was going to get it. Right. I went to a meeting the next day. I don't miss a lot of meetings. And you've heard me say this, and I'll say
it. But for a year, you weren't going. I
didn't go to any meeting. I had a hard-on against AA.
So you were susceptible.
Why did you have a hard-on against AA?
Yeah.
I've got I had a little mole on my leg.
Okay.
When I was a kid, it was there, and it changed. It went from this perfectly little round to where it started diffusing. It got some cracks in it. And my doctor sent me to the dermatologist. The dermatologist says, yeah, we probably should cut that out. It looks like it's getting ready to go cancer on you. And so they cut it out. Okay, no big deal. Hell, I drove myself home from this. All they did was numb the area where they were doing the cutting. I say drove. I rode my bike home. It was a Thursday. I took Friday off. Sunday, I woke up, and my calf was as big as my thigh. It got to where if I had a pair of motorcycle boots or gloves, motorcycle pants that had a zipper on the side. That was the only way I could get my pants on over my leg. And then I got my boot on. I couldn't zip it up, so I duct taped the leg shut, and I drove to the emergency room because nobody that I called. Well, right now we're getting ready to have lunch. Can you call me back?
Oh, man.
So you had a resentment.
There's green shit oozing out of my leg. Can I get somebody to give me? I only had a motorcycle. I didn't have a car. So, I got a resentment. Mm-hmm. And I quit AA.
Son of a bitches.
Motherfuckers.
Yeah. Don't they know who I am? But I'll tell you what this was at the VA hospital in Denver. It's a Sunday afternoon, or Sunday about 11 o'clock in the morning. And there's, all the homeless vets, which my heart goes out to those guys. It just breaks my heart that we're not doing more for them. But this triage nurse saw me walk in with duct tape around my pants. It wasn't duct tape, it was masking tape. But I had tape around my leg to hold. And she pulled me out of this long line of guys. Not one of them complained. There was this, there's a thing that veterans have for veterans.
There's a certain brotherhood we got.
Right. And it doesn't matter if, like I tease a guy that I'm taking through the steps now, he's a Marine. He's a jarhead, leatherneck, and I'm a squid, it's all the stuff we do. There's a love that if Larry were to call you something bad about the Navy, I'd kick the crap out of him because he can't, I don't mean that.
No, I get it. I get it.
There's just something different about us because we've done something. Right. We signed on the line that
protect.
Up to and including our death, we will protect the Constitution of the United States.
Right. I get it. Did you finally get that damn fly?
Yes.
Yay!
Well, there's one more.
Well, see, they breed like that. I got into the back. They wanted to cut my pants off. I wouldn't let them do that. Those were expensive. I still have them, but I can't wear them now. I've gotten too fat. But they started, using these scrub brushes that have benzodrine in them or something so you don't feel it. You feel it at first, and then the pain goes. And they started an IV, and they started what do you call it? Antibiotics. Thanks. Mm-hmm. And they put me in the emergency room because I was running a fever. I wasn't even aware of that.
You had a bad infection.
And and it was just like 4 days. I mean, so I called my boss. I told her I was in the hospital, and she says, "Just take care of yourself." And I just screw AA.
Huh.
These folks.
So for 1 year, you stayed away because of that.
Because of that, yeah.
And how far sober were you at that time?
10 years.
Oh, that you were 10 years in.
Yeah. And, I've worked the steps. Right. I'm taking guys through the steps. Right. But I just quit. I mean, I didn't have responsees that needed to go through the steps at that time.
And you went almost a whole year before that thought came in.
Well, because I was still praying every day.
Okay. You were still doing what you need to do at home.
I was doing we don't use the circle and triangle like we did. It's not in the front of the book anymore. But
hold on. People don't, even though we're not affiliated with any alphabet things, Michael, please tell me. People say, what is the triangle? What do you mean triangle? What do you mean?
The circle and triangle is the unity is the circle. The triangles are 3 parts of the body: spiritual, mental, and physical. That are recovery, service, and unity. And the 3 parts are the 3 parts that we recover from. Doing the steps is the recovery part of the triangle. Going to meetings, taking guys through sponsors, speaking at recovery centers, going to prisons, doing all of that stuff. That's the service. Making coffee, helping somebody out of their car, shaking hands at the door. All of that is service. And that helps the mental part of us. The unity, like what we're doing here, and meetings and those things, that is our physical. So the triangle and the slogans on it it doesn't say spirit, mind, and body.
It says unity, recovery, service.
Right. Yeah. And, if I'm in recovery, I'm working on the steps, which are they're designed for me to have a relationship with God. Mm-hmm. That's what they're designed
That's what they're for.
And then, if I'm helping somebody, hell, it doesn't even have to be an alcoholic. Hold the door open for some older person. I've got 15 things in my basket and somebody has 1. Let them go ahead of me. This is service. It doesn't have to be anything grand. I don't have to, and
most of the times it isn't. Am I right?
Right.
But do you guys not also believe that's just normal grade A human fucking kindness?
It is.
It should
but
be.
we fucking lose it.
Right. Thank you. That's what disgusts me about this is that is just normal everyday human kindness.
It should.
It is.
It should
right.
be.
Yeah.
But was it
Just
was
so
it part of
frustrating.
us? Was it part of you? Before
No, no, it wasn't. You know, it wasn't.
How many times, I'm going to say me, how many times did I should have let that guy go ahead of me.
Oh yeah.
You know, that little voice in my head telling me, you fucked up, asshole.
Yeah.
You know, I should have held the door for that woman.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I was in such a hurry.
Right.
And she's got bags and kids screaming, and I got to get to the elevator because I got to get to work.
Right.
You know, how many times did we do that?
Selfish.
Basic human kindness. We don't.
Well, our selfish thoughts take over our natural human kindness.
Right. Well,
And the alcoholic, Michael Gill quoted page 62, selfishness and self-centeredness is the root of our trouble.
Right.
Driven by 100 forms of fear and self-delusion. The self is on that page 13 times.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if I can find this.
Michael, I'm going to ask you a couple questions.
Hold on.
Hold it.
What are we looking
Time
for?
out. It's not in the book.
I know more books.
That's not in the book.
It's not in. You probably don't know this either, but I'm going to see if I can find this.
If I know it, I'm going to
It says, this is a guy named John Calvin.
Okay, Calvinism.
Well, he wouldn't have liked that, but it says.
Well, he was not even a fight. We won't get into him.
And this kind of goes back to human kindness. He says, the light of human reasons differs little from the darkness.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That could be a saying in an AA hall.
Right.
But we're to bring light as believers, and I believe as sober members of Alcoholics Anonymous, that God has given us this duty to spread this message, the Alcoholics Anonymous message, but also to, much more importantly, to spread the gospel. You know, and like I said earlier, I don't do a great job of that, but I do the best that I have. You know, right now, some days I'm on fire. You know, other days, I'd rather, watch cartoons.
Well, you said it a minute ago, and I kind of played devil's advocate about.
Is this your question you're going to ask him?
Can we ask him questions now?
No.
Because if we are, I need water.
I want to ask a real quick question, only because I think I remember this story. I wanted to ask you a question.
Is it one of Michael's stories?
Yeah.
I like Michael's stories.
Okay.
When you and Kathy first started dating, I think I remember before she realized whatever happened, whatever you scared her. Am I missing something there? Wasn't there something special in how you guys originally met to begin with?
We were going through divorce.
Both of you were.
Yeah. And, but when I met her, I can see her in my mind right now. We were working for a company that had a partnership with IBM. So we were working out of the IBM office in Bakersfield. I get to work early because it's like I've been there for a week, and she's been in Atlanta. I haven't met her yet. And I see this absolutely stunning woman walk in, and her hair's a mess, and she's got some what looks like baby
vomit or something.
Yeah, on her shirt. And there was and she had this beautiful eyes and this absolutely stunning smile. And she walked over. She didn't say a word to me. She walked over. She dropped her briefcase on her desk, and she went to the bathroom to clean up. And she came out, and I was smitten immediately. Mm-hmm. Now, I wouldn't say that was love, but I wanted to know her. I didn't know anything about her. I didn't know that she was going to be my partner. I just knew that I wanted to know her. And, then we become partners, and then we become partners. I just fell so deeply in love with her that I was just, yeah.
And I think the reason why I bring that up, because I've heard you speak about Kathy so much that people to understand the joy that came from when you lost her and you were in your deep alcoholism to when what our promises tell us, right? As our promises tell you.
If we were painstaking.
Right. And for that love of your life, right, to come back into your life the way she came back in. Like I said, I've heard you tell that story. And I absolutely love it because I love, we've had Mary and Matt on here. We've had Brad and Grace on here. We've had Jason and Kim on here. You know what? To hear how people's relationships mend after.
But God had to mold Michael, make Michael the right type of man for that woman.
Right. Had to make time right. If Kathy had married you, would you have seen your errors or your ways?
What I've gotten sober, I don't know.
Right. But we don't know, right? We don't know. But we do know that the women are in our lives. It tells us in the book, right? Why does God give us women? Us alcohol.
That's in Dr. Bob's Nightmare as well. They got certain type of women that we pick or the
amazing. Or that are drawn to us.
Right. I mean, and why Katie stuck with me? God knows why. I mean, she's a beautiful
and why
woman.
didn't my first wife stay with me?
I don't know.
I mean, that's
right.
That's kind of the part of the other side. That's the flip side of that.
Right. I mean, God just the way we lose, the way things are lost. They're not always lost, right? I mean, they're going to come back. If they're meant to be, they're going to come back.
And I think with me and Kathy, I think one of the things that I think one of the reasons that we were able to mend, that the amends did more than just, clean my side of the street. And I don't know how else to say that, but the love that we had, when we first met and first fell in love, to what we have today, is so much richer today.
There you go.
And so much more fulfilling. I wake up in the morning and I get to wake up with her every day. That's a minor thing to some people.
No, it's not.
But that's like, okay. And
see, this is the time you really want cameras, because he doesn't realize it. He may not realize it, Michael. But even in the rooms,
the look on your face.
All the years I've known you, when you speak about Kathy, that's the look. You light up.
The smile.
I love it.
The smile.
I love that, because that's such a God thing.
And when I knew her before, I was 60 pounds lighter. My hair wasn't white. I had all my teeth. And she still likes me. Right. When we reconnected, I had just interviewed with a church in Biloxi to do their
Biloxi,
Mississippi.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I'd gone down there in 2010, a gift of sobriety, believe it or not, or 2000. What was it? Was it 2005? 2006? When Katrina hit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I went down there then, and we spent 10 actual days in Biloxi at this church. Going about cutting down trees that had fallen, tarping houses, handing out food, diapers, doing all that stuff to try to help while the recovery is going on. And we'd pray with them. Hardest work I've ever done in my life.
So you left computer programming to do that.
Oh no, I just took.
You were taking a leave.
Okay. I took 2 weeks off to go there. My church was sending people there to help out, and I volunteered. Before I talked to my boss, but that's another story. Anyway, yeah, he didn't have a problem with it. But we, it was physically the hardest work that I've ever done. I didn't make a penny. Any money that I spent came out of my pocket, and I was overpaid because the love that I felt from.
So it's better to give than to receive. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, there is that. Yeah, there is that. I was overpaid. I was so overpaid. Let
me ask you a question. Is that because I feel the same way when I do this work? Like this week, even though I got sick, I got to do a 5th step on Wednesday and on Friday.
Oh, cool!
I got to hear 2 of them. What a gift!
See, I don't take guys through the steps as much as other people do.
I just do it when I'm asked.
If somebody asks me to now, see, I didn't get to pick my first sponsor. I didn't go up to say, "Hey, Rob, will you be my sponsor?" I remember going to Honeycutt.
You were voluntold?
Well, I went to Honeycutt. Frank Honeycutt was an old guy. I think he had been sober 50 years when I got sober. He's passed on now. Helped more people than anybody I know. And I remember, and Frank was about 6'2". He was an old storekeeper, Navy storekeeper. But he, I said, Frank, would you be my sponsor? And he puts this mitt on my shoulder and he said, boy, that's not how, he said, son, that's not how we do this in this group. You be here tomorrow and I'll have a sponsor for you. And that's how I met Alan. Every time I heard Alan speak, it would grate.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why, but it just grated. And Alan helped more people than
I wonder if I do that to people.
And
do you really want me to go down that hole?
Anyway, so Alan took me, and Alan, it was, I had asked Frank on a Saturday night. I met Alan on Sunday. He told me we'd meet Friday, and he told me to read the book from
Monday to Friday.
Yeah, and so we met Friday. We did 1, 2, 3. Gave me the instructions to do 4.
Yeah.
I met him early Saturday morning. He gave me the instructions to do the fears and the sex. He said, just do them both. And we met that afternoon. And I gave
Nice.
him.
That's how this shit's done.
And I did my 5th step. And, I went home. I did 6 and 7. And he told me, as soon as you're done with 7, do 8 and we'll meet. And so I did that. And I went there with my list. He looked over the list. He said, okay, let's start making amends. Yeah. So I was done.
Yeah.
But the very first thing, and this is what I tell all the guys that I take through the steps, and I'm not going to do the page numbers right, but you know them. That's okay. 84, 85, 86, 87.
Yeah.
The last 3 or 4 pages of into action, where, 11 and 12, 10, 11 and 12, 10, 11. Because if again, I speak for myself, if I remember daily to start my day in prayer, to review my day at the end of it, but to start my day in prayer and look forward to the day, look at the day, what am I going to do? How am I going to handle things? Like, I didn't know how to get to Larry's house. I mean, on the bike, it's really hard with GPS. So, but I knew he told me that he lived about a mile past. The church that we were meeting was about a mile up from his house. So I went to the church, pulled out my GPS, and was able to, and then you guys see me coming back. But I knew to turn there, then I was going to call you. So I was, I'd figured it out. Okay. I'm smarter than the average bear. But the important things for me today are, when the light comes on, like when you're sitting in a meeting and like the gentleman I helped a couple of Saturdays ago. Mm-hmm. And I just told him, just fucking do it. It's not a big deal. Just fucking do it. And he went home, he prayed, and he just fucking did it.
Start writing.
And then I saw him the next day, and he had this look, and it's like, that's why I stay sober. Right. That's why I go to meetings.
Well, you want to hear what he told me? Because he's talking about a gentleman I sponsor who he was on his 8th step, and it was in his head. He hadn't put it on paper yet because he had 4 days to do it, because we were going to meet. And he was struggling because it was in his head. And Michael told me, he told me at primary, he saved my life. I said, well, give me some of this. What did he tell you? He told me just fucking start writing. And what did you do? Because I started writing. So you helped save yourself. But that's how. But
that's this whole.
But thing. That's what Alcoholics Anonymous is over anything else. Yeah. Is me helping someone else. We're not a fucking self-help group.
No.
My purpose isn't.
We're a God help group.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. We're if God lets us. Sometimes God wants to do it Himself. I had heard, and I'm going to use myself as an example here. I had been coming to AA meetings, and I'm drinking, and everybody, all of my family is, it's like my house is on fire, and everybody's leaving, and I'm the house that's on fire, and they just have to get rid of me, And God allowed that to happen. Mm-hmm. And God allowed me to get to a point where, our book talks about the jumping off point. Either go on to the bitter end and die an alcoholic death, or accept A spiritual program. Pick up the tools laid at my feet. And that's what I did. I asked his help. I didn't know, I've said this. I was willing to die to get out of the desperation I was in. Mm-hmm. And if that's what God wanted for me at that moment, I was okay with it. Not so much, I've said this before. I don't know, before I got sober, I so much wanted to die, but I was afraid to.
I've heard you say this before.
Yeah. Today, I'm not afraid to die, but I don't want to. No. I like being able to help people. I like watching my grandchildren grow up. I like seeing my great-grandchildren. I like the fact that my daughter and I have, all 5 of my kids, we have a relationship of some sort. My son, I pray for him. And I don't pull punches. I tell him, if I think they're going the wrong way, I tell them. I don't say
love compels us to.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, and I just this whole life that God has given me, is beyond my wildest. Mm-hmm. No one ever asked me to write. Hey, write what you'd like to when you're 20 years sober or 15 years sober. No one ever asked me to do that. But if I had, I don't know what I would have written. Oh. I certainly wouldn't have written living in Modesto.
Married to Kathy.
Well, I would have thought that.
Okay.
But I really, and I didn't pursue her. I wasn't one of those guys that when I got drunk made phone calls.
Mm-hmm. Thank God.
I never did that. I didn't text drunk. Well, we didn't have text messaging in '99 as much as we do now. I would get home from work and crack a bottle of scotch and unplug the phone. That way I knew I wasn't going to make any calls and no one's going to call me.
You had a plan to black out.
I never blacked out until the very, very end.
Okay.
A couple of stories about blacking out. One, I came to in a Tescadero on a motorcycle, filling it up. I had to stop at least one other time to put gas in my bike because I could only go 200 miles. And I was about 300 miles north of, maybe 250 miles north of Long Beach. And the fuel light came on and I pulled off. I know what I did because I was putting gas in my bike, but I don't know how I got there.
Yeah.
And the other blackout was the thing with my son.
Mm-hmm.
And that's only 2 blackouts that I can remember. Now, I'm certain I blacked out at other times, but they weren't as in my face as those 2.
They didn't impact you as much.
Right. Yeah, this is such a good way to live.
There's a lot of stuff, Michael, that you said a couple things, and I've said this multiple times. I was one drink away. I say that so often. I was with I got to walk my daughter down the aisle this last year, and I said I was one drink away. I was one drink away from not being able to do that, right? I was coaching a football game here 2 weeks ago, and I as I was looking, my grandson was a ball boy. Score. Yeah. My grandson was the ball boy, and he's 9 years old and just an avid football, baseball, sports, anything to do with the ball, jiu-jitsu, everything. And I'm looking down the sideline as I'm supposed to be calling defense. I'm looking down the sideline and I see my grandson just elated, just because he's holding the ball and he's watching. Actually, it wasn't even on defense, but they were getting ready to score. And I'm looking down there and I just happened to take my phone out and start recording him as we went in for a touchdown, and he just absolutely is going nuts. And I sent that to my family, and I literally in my text back I said I was one drink away from missing this right here. And that's the things. And I heard that from you, Michael, actually for the first time.
I didn't make it up.
No, you didn't. But I hear those things. The other thing I've heard you say, and I love it when you say it, is you people, how you always say you people, this AA. And Michael, I think so many of us forget that part, right? Because I always say, you know, Michael or Rob helped me do this and that, but it wasn't. It's you people. When we get into these rooms of AA, right? Even if we don't know that person sitting across from us,
right,
they're still a part of this thing that we do, right? If they got more than 24 hours, they're a part of what we do.
It is a we program.
It is a we program. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Look what I did with Chris. Look at, I mean, everything we do for somebody else. We don't do it for ourselves, right?
But the reverse of that is, if
you.
I help you,
thank you, Michael,
I help me.
Right.
You know, because when I start thinking only about me, bad things start happening.
Yep.
Yeah, buddy.
Yep.
You know, and I mean, I haven't drank, but I become, you know, a little bitter about my lot sometimes. I become a little short with my wife. You know, I'm less caring to people. You know, and I don't. I do things that I don't even think about them anymore. Yeah. It's just become part of my life.
It's a way of living. Because
that's, you know, and I there was an old guy when I first got sober, and I loved him, and he would say, sobriety and sober are two different things.
Amen.
What do you mean?
Sobriety is a way of life.
Mm-hmm.
Sober is a period of time.
Yep.
Now, I've been sober for over 25 years, but how much of that has actually been sobriety? 50% maybe? You know, the other time when I'm being selfish and self-centered, that's not sobriety.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm thinking about me more than you,
yep.
That's not sobriety.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, so yeah, sober is a length of time. Sobriety is a way of life. Is the way he said it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Michael. I absolutely 100%, and he's.
So you're going to cut me off now, I see.
Well, what else do you got to say?
Nothing.
I mean, we could sit here for hours. You know that.
Yeah, and you can edit it down. But, you know, the thing I'd like to say
absolutely
is, first of all, what you guys are doing is magnificent.
Thank you.
You know, like I said, I've listened to bits and pieces because I just can't sit and listen to guys, you know, talking. And I
go for a jog.
I can't jog. I just had foot surgery. You know, I just had my foot reconstructed. You know, they told me a year, and I'm ahead of the game because I've done everything they told me to do. Put
in some pods and get on that Triumph and go for a ride.
You know, I don't like listening to music or anything
takes
when
it away.
I'm riding.
It takes everything away.
I know it's weird, but
no, I
know. But you know, if you guys can get this with several tens of thousands of people, do you guys make money?
No. This will never make money.
Okay, then I won't be part of it then.
I don't want. I'm
going to tell a really dirty joke, and then we can shut this off.
You please.
I'll tell.
Get the unfiltered in here.
I'll tell two then if we're gonna. This guy's had a really shitty day at work, just the absolute worst. So he goes to the bartender. He goes home. You know, he says, just mix me the strongest drink you have. And the bartender gives him all this warning, you know, it's got all these different, you know, scotch and brandy and, you know, tequila, and all of that is in this one drink. And so the guy says, I don't care. So the bartender hands it to him and tells him, be careful. The guy just pounds it and goes home. The next day he comes into the bar and he goes, can I have a Pepsi? And the bartender says, what, you didn't like the drink? The guy said, you don't understand. I went home last night and I blew chunks in the kitchen. I blew chunks in the living room. I blew chunks all over my house. Well, I told you not to drink it, the bartender says. He says, yeah, but Chunks is my dog. That's a terrible joke.
That's fucking hilarious. You told me that one once before.
Is the second joke going to be about the duck?
No, I don't remember the duck joke.
The guy with the duck under his arm.
That wasn't me.
That was you?
No, you always say that was me.
It was you.
I don't know that joke.
It was you.
I'll tell this one. This group of psychiatrists are visiting an insane asylum. And, you know, they're interviewing patients. And, you know, the first patient they come across, she's got a tennis racket in her hand. And she is just playing this imaginary game. And they ask her what the matter is. And she says, nothing. I'm Billie Jean King. I win the Wimbledon, and I get out of here. So they take their notes, and they walk on. And they come across a guy with, you know, a golf club. And he's chasing this imaginary golf ball around. They stop him. They go, "What's the matter with you?" He says, "Nothing. I'm Jack Nicklaus. I win the Open, and I'm out of here." Okay. And they come across this guy who's naked from the waist down. He's got an erection. He's got a can of peanuts on one side, another can on the other side. He takes a peanut out of the can. He rubs it across the head of his dick. He throws it in the other can. Takes another one out, rubs it across the head of his dick, throws it in the can. The doctors go, "Well, so what's the matter with you?" He goes, "Well, can't you tell? I'm fucking nuts, and I ain't ever getting out of here."
Michael, you told me that. And I tried to come home and tell that to my wife, but I couldn't tell it. I was laughing so fucking hard I couldn't finish the joke.
You know, I tried not to tell dirty jokes, you know, because I know that they're not, you know, someone of my stature, you know.
Stop it. Stop it.
You know, the bottom line of all of this is that if I stay sober today,
Amen,
I'll never get drunk.
Right.
And the only way I can stay sober today is I have to live in today.
Mm-hmm.
If I start living about yesterday, and I start future tripping.
Mm-hmm.
If I start going, "Oh fuck, I should have done this better yesterday," or you know, start thinking about, you know, I got that meeting tomorrow, and they're going to tell me this thing on my chest is cancer, and you know, I could get drunk today. But if I live in today, you know, what's going to happen tomorrow? God told me not to worry about it because it may not happen. I'm not guaranteed that. And what happened yesterday, the only thing I can do about yesterday is make amends.
Yep.
And if I do that part and I let God take care of tomorrow, and he takes care of today. So, you know.
I got a pretty good chance of staying sober.
As long as I don't drink today, I have a good chance of staying sober.
Amen.
Good. Anyway, thanks, you guys.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
If you want to reach out to Michael, ask questions or anything, you can reach him through us at recoveryunfilteredpodcast at gmail.com. That's recoveryunfilteredpodcast@gmail.com. Rob?
Larry?
Fuck
Michael.
you.
I was going to say let's close in prayer, but if you're going to say fuck you.
No, listen, we open in prayer.
That's that three, the stages of marriage.
Yeah.
You know, the stages.
Thank you for joining us today.
Huh?
We hope you learned something today.
Well, it starts off with you have sex everywhere.
Uh-huh.
You know, I mean, hell, kitchen table, you know, in the back seat, in the front seat of the car, you know, and then it becomes bedroom sex, but the lights are on, and then it becomes bedroom sex with the lights out. Then it becomes hallway sex where you walk down the hall and you go, "Fuck you." Yeah.
I had to learn that one with Pat. Thank you for joining us today.
We hope you learned something today that will help you.
If you did not, come back next week and we'll try again.
If you like what we heard, give us a 5-star review. If you don't like what you heard, kiss my... You can't say that, can you? Anyway, if you don't like what you heard, go ahead and tell us that too. We'll see what we can improve. We probably won't change nothing, but do it anyway.
Hey, thanks, Rob. Come back next week and hopefully something will be different and something will sink in. Take care.
This has been Recovery Unfiltered.